Pessoal, estamos aqui na véspera da abertura do CUPOLA Summit, por isso vocês estão vendo o evento ainda terminando de ser montado, ainda vazio, a partir de amanhã já vai estar bem cheio, mas nós estamos aproveitando esse pré-evento para gravar um episódio especial do Modo Avião com vocês, com o nosso keynote, vindo diretamente de Colorado, nos Estados Unidos, Mike DelPrete. Eu espero que vocês gostem dessa conversa. Mike, welcome to Modo Avião.
Thank you.
You know, the CUPOLA podcast is named as an analogy to putting your cell phone on the airplane mode. Something you do to give an interview or something you do to travel across the country. Since here we used to talk to professionals from all over Brazil. But this time, we've gone even farther, all the way to Colorado. Rather, Colorado came to us. So I want to say it's a pleasure to have you here as our first guest and our first international guest for CUPOLA Summit 2.
Yeah, thank you. It's my pleasure to be here. First time in Brazil and loving it so far.
Nice. Mostly the food.
Yeah, the food is fantastic.
Nice to hear it. So, Mike, for those who don't know, you have a podcast named Context. Mm-hmm. In this podcast, you talk to world industry leaders, and almost always you start by asking your guests, how do you typically start your day?
Yeah.
And I want to know, is just a nice icebreaker, or there is an important point to observe on this? And more importantly, how do you typically start your day?
It's a great question. I appreciate you tossing it back on me. Yeah, I didn't start my podcast with a list of questions and that just kind of came to the top, but it was something that organically emerged after I started talking to people. It was just really interesting to understand the different strategies that people use to start their day, because it's super important, and it shows a lot about them as individuals and also kind of what they deem important and what they want to do to get off on the right foot. So some people are, spending time with their kids, getting them dressed and fed and off to school. Others, it's exercise. I'm interested in coffee. So that's how I start my day. I usually get up early. It's something starting with a 5. We'll do a quick shower, and then it's off to the espresso machine. And I just love the rhythm and the ritual of that, going through all those steps. And then I'll sit down at my computer, because I do my best work. My work is thinking, and I do my best work in the morning. I'm really a morning person.
And you have your silence, so you're a coffee lover. You can appreciate your coffee and your ideas.
Yeah, so just sitting down and having that first sip of coffee is fantastic.
Wonderful. I enjoy it too. So nowadays, you are internationally recognized as an expert and thought leader in real estate tech. But for those unaware of your background, how did you get your start in real estate? What does your journey look like?
Yeah, it was an interesting journey for sure. I mean, I didn't start my career in real estate at all. And truth be told, I'm not particularly fascinated with real estate. I've done the normal kind of transactions somebody might do. I've rented and bought a house, but I've never owned more than one house at once. I don't have a real estate empire per se. But I got my start, I moved overseas to New Zealand, and there I was working at the top portal of the country. And there's kind of this big online business that aggregated all of these other businesses together. So they had the top real estate portal, the top automotive portal, the top jobs portal, general items, marketplace, all together in one. And my job was heading up strategy. So I looked for investments and acquisitions, and I also ran corporate strategy. So I was looking at how do we grow. Mm-hmm. And out of all those different business lines, I kept coming back to real estate. I thought that was just particularly interesting. I don't know why. I think because it's so hard and big and different. And, with automotive or jobs, you can kind of plot out how that might go the next 10 years. But real estate, no idea. I don't know. Why do people use agents? Why aren't there more technologies to let people buy or sell on their own? I worked at a portal. What are all the other portal strategies? Are they getting into mortgage? Are they trying to sell insurance? Are they just sticking to what they know? And who's doing well? Who's not doing well? So my brain was kind of ticked on by all of that stuff. I like hard problems, and that was definitely a hard one. So when I left New Zealand and moved back to the United States, that's when I decided, all right, I'm going to focus on this. And the question I want to answer is, what are some new technologies and business models that might change how people buy and sell houses? And I don't know why. I was just interested. And that's where it started, and then kind of since then just continued to do a lot of research and travel and talking and kind of try to figure out the answer to that question.
Nice. And it's a market that evolves you. It is something that, for me, it's what attracts me. It's something that I guess it's always exists because people are always need a place to live, and they are always getting married or also getting divorced, having kids. So as you said, it's complex, and we have a lot of problems to solve.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a big area of a lot of opportunities.
Nice. And Mike, recently you introduced the DelPrete probability paradox. I read it on your newsletter. So the less likely something is to occur, the more attention it gets. So what, in your opinion, is getting more attention than it should on the real estate market right now?
I hate to be that guy that says AI, but I'll start with AI.
Okay.
Because it could be anything to anyone, no matter what you want to do. There's just a lot of hype around AI, and this idea that AI will replace real estate agents. It's pretty unfounded. It's exciting, and it's really cool to think about. The other thing is in the United States, there's a lot of commission lawsuits, and there was this recent NAR settlement. So this whole idea of commissions and what it is and how it gets set and who pays whom is really up in the air, or there's challenged that system. But again, the idea that buyer's agents will go away, or if you want to buy a home, now you're going to have to pay your own buyer's agent directly out of your pocket. These are really exciting possibilities, but they're not likely, at least in the next 2 years. Over the next 10 years, a lot of things can change. But in the immediate short term here, these headlines like, the commission structure has been revolutionized and everything's changing and buyer's agents are going away. It's just hype. It's just headlines to sell clicks or papers or whatever it is. It's really not based in reality. So if I'm walking around talking to agents and they're asking me, what do you think is going to happen? What's going to happen? I'm like, I don't know. Nobody knows what's going to happen. Just, buckle down, focus on your job. That's probably the best you can do right now.
And since you mentioned commissions, what's going on with the commission split on United States?
It's been a really interesting story, with at the tail end of the last decade, with billions of dollars of venture capital coming in, propping up new brokerages. The commission split was one of the most effective weapons to recruit and lure agents from one brokerage to another. And, very generous splits would be given. So say 90-10. And what that means is when a real estate agent helps a consumer, buy or sell a house, they keep 90% of the commission and they give 10% of it to the brokerage. And, in return, the brokerage is lending them their brand, technology, training. It could be whatever a brokerage offers to agents. 90-10 split, that's a lot. And it's really, if you're a brokerage, it's really difficult to build a business off a 10% split. And I'm not talking about, making a lot of money and buying boats. I'm talking about keeping the lights on and being able to pay rent. That's really hard. It's unsustainable. So that was a very effective strategy to recruit some of the best agents from one brokerage to another. But, over the past 18 months, the market's really slowed down. There's a lot less venture capital. That unsustainability is catching up with these brokerages. And what I've seen more and more is that split being renegotiated back in the brokerage's favor.
Nice.
Hey, Mike, it was 90-10, but you know what? That's not sustainable. We can't keep keep doing all this work, and we can't keep the lights on. So it's going to be 80-20 or, whatever, 75-25, whatever the number is. And I think, for the most part, everybody understands. Agents understand. I'm like, all right, money doesn't grow on trees. I can't, I can't keep taking money from you and expecting you to do a good job for me. So that's a lot of what I'm seeing right now in the U.S. market.
Perfect. But now talking about technology specifically, in your opinion, which technologies have had the the most significant impact in the real estate market until now?
It's a great question. If you rewind 20 years, it's the real estate portals. So, it could be Zillow in the United States or Viva Real here in Brazil. Just taking all these listings, putting them online and democratizing that process, turning the lights on, making it so anybody can see everything for sale. That was, powered by technology. Yeah. That was revolutionary. And that was the first era of tech innovation in this.
And you empowered the consumer.
Yeah, totally. It's good for the consumer. And after that, it's getting into, again, thinking about the DelPrete probability paradox. It's not the exciting stuff. It's the boring stuff. It's online electronic signatures. That's a big deal. I hate to always use myself as an example, but I bought a house in New Zealand in 2014 or 15, and my real estate agent was driving across town collecting signatures. That's just how it was done. Yeah. And I mean, that's still how it's done. I
bought my house last year, and I did this way. Yeah. In person.
And that's fine, that's a great option. But being able to do it electronically, like maybe for some stuff, I don't know. But electronic signatures was a huge technological innovation that saved a lot of agents a lot of time. And then the third thing I'll mention is, again, kind of just electronic document management. Mm-hmm. It could be your Google Drive or your Dropbox for buying 123 Main Street, but just being able to have all the documents, the mortgage, the financing, closing docs, just everything online, is a big change. And those, if you kind of trace that back to real estate, those are the companies with some of the biggest valuations over the past number of years. Like Zillow bought Loop years ago for hundreds of millions of dollars, and Loop is effectively like an online document management system. Or you look at what DocuSign is doing in the real estate space. It's a very, very big business.
Awesome. So I believe maybe your answer will be similar to that, but for startups entering in the real estate technology space right now, what do you believe are the key areas of opportunity they should focus on to be competitive and to be innovative?
I mean, they got to solve real problems. And this is advice you could give to any company doing anything, but pick a real problem, not an imagined problem, and offer something that's good for consumers, not good for you as a business. Like, don't figure out a way to make money. Oh, how could we make money? What could we do? Oh, let's create a homeowner dashboard where a homeowner can, store all these documents and warranty info, and then if they do that, then we'll know when they're thinking about, moving or upgrading appliances. Like, I don't, is that a real problem? Like, are you running into a lot of people every day that are like, oh, I wish I could store all my warranty information online? I don't know. Maybe not. But would they pay you for that? So just, being able to solve real problems. And my second bit of advice would be, forget the first order problems and find the second and third order problems.
Perfect.
And what I mean by that is the first order problems are kind of, we went to buy a house, it was really hard, there has to be a better way. It's like that. Those are kind of these obvious quote-unquote problems. You got to be in the industry, like actually working in the industry for some company doing something to really get those second and third level problems. And I think those are the less interesting, less sexy ones, less exciting, but they're actual real problems, and somebody out there will pay you money to solve them.
This is really nice because when you talk, I can see that a lot of startups, they come from different markets to try to innovate and to try to deliver something for the real estate market, but they haven't lived the real estate market as it is every day, so like agents do. So it's an interesting advice.
You got to be in it, and I think there's always an advantage to coming at something from a new angle. There's an advantage to somebody coming into real estate who knows nothing about it to try to disrupt it because they have fresh thinking. But there's also a disadvantage. And I think that disadvantage is bigger in real estate than almost any other industry because it's real estate. These are the least frequent transactions somebody will make a couple times in their lifetime. done, to quote one of my podcast guests, done with all of their money where their kids live. And that's not something you screw around with. You gotta be there. You gotta live it.
Perfect. We really believe on this here at CUPOLA. So now I want to ask you, who do you think are the biggest disruptors on the real estate market, and what makes their approaches so unique?
Mm-hmm. Right now, the biggest disruptors are not those classic companies you would think of as a disruptor. Mm-hmm. So back in, a couple of years ago, those might be the iBuyers they might be the iBuyers or power buyers or these companies that have just a totally different approach. We're using technology, we're using money and financing, and we're going to revolutionize the real estate process. We don't have many of those anymore. Like a lot of them are in hibernation mode, but they're not what I would call the biggest disruptors. I think the biggest disruptors in real estate are disrupting the brokerage space with different business models. Companies like EXP, Compass, Real, they've just got they're brokerages, so they're in that business, but they just have a different model, right? EXP fundamentally, it was founded 10 years ago, if not even more than that, but they were all in the cloud, so there's no offices. Like, that's disruptive. It's not super interesting, sexy, exciting disruptive, but it is, because it totally changes their operating cost. Mm-hmm. But they're all in the cloud. That was very, very disruptive, and they gave agents stock options and employed a multi-level marketing scheme to encourage recruitment. Like, those were all very disruptive, and EXP went from nothing to the number one brokerage in the United States by transaction volume. Like, that's pretty, like, if you look at the definition of disruptive, that's pretty disruptive. And I'll stop there, but all these other businesses like Compass and Real, they're doing the same thing. They're taking that brokerage business model and really changing it. And that puts the incumbents, these companies that have been around for 40, 50 plus years, under pressure. Because they can't, I don't know, if you're RE/MAX or Keller Williams or whoever, you can't just close all your offices and go to the cloud. Like, it doesn't work. Your agents they're gonna leave. So I think it's it's in that brokerage space that I'm seeing the biggest disruption right now.
Perfect. And relying on that, what can legacy brand brokerages learn from market disruptors, and is there still room for them?
Yeah. If there's one thing I've learned from, I do a podcast and I do a lot of research and I teach up at CU Boulder, and I have, tons of experienced guest speakers come in. And if there's one thing I've learned from that, it's that there's a lot of different winning models. I kind of mentioned RE/MAX and Keller Williams in one breath. They're under pressure as incumbents, but they have a model that might be totally fine, right? Just as the online model might be totally fine. It's you just got to pick your lane and stay in it. Like, we're online only. That's what we're good at. We're not opening up offices. It would be very easy for EXP to open up an office, but they don't, because they're in their lane. The worst thing RE/MAX or Keller Williams, and again, I'll just keep saying them because I mentioned them, the worst thing they could do is be like, oh yeah, we're online too. It's like, no, you're not, and that's not who you are. Like, stay in your lane and kind of stay there. It's the companies that get stuck in between the lanes. Like, I'm not, cars, sometimes you start swerving and the steering wheel shakes and, it pulls you back in, or you hit the rumble strips. Those are the companies that get in trouble. The ones that, like, don't really know who they are or what they're good at, and they're trying to chase things. They're like, oh, online, cloud-based, that's big? Yeah, now we're that as well. Oh, AI is big? Oh, now we're doing AI as well. So I think the incumbents need to, it's kind of like what we were talking about in the session before this. They need to have the best intel possible. They need to really know what's going on. And I don't mean just numbers. I mean facts, evidence, what's working, what's not working, why is it working, why is it not working. Like, you need to have the best intelligence, and then they need to be able to make decisions quickly, understanding what they're good at.
And it seems like it is obvious, but companies have to find out what the competitive advantages are. And competitive advantage will not be you to copy a different business model.
Right.
Perfect.
I teach I teach a case study in my class looking at the UK market, countrywide, and purple bricks. Have you ever heard of purple bricks?
Not until today.
Okay, yeah. Purple bricks was kind of like the original real estate disruptor in terms of new brokerage models.
Nice.
It was really interesting, and it was kind of really gaining speed in 2016, 2017, 2018. And it like EXP, in the UK, it went from 0 to the number 1 brokerage. Since then, it's had a fall from grace. But that rise is instructive, and it's worth looking at. But its biggest incumbent competitor at the time, countrywide, they saw purple bricks, they saw what it was doing, which was basically offering to sell a home for an upfront fixed fee. So it's not commission, it's not after it sells. It's like, pay me £1,000 right now, I promise I'll sell your home. The biggest incumbent countrywide, they competed by saying, oh yeah, we can do that too. And that's like, it's like a giraffe waking up in the Serengeti in Africa one day and saying, oh yeah, now I'm also a lion. Like, no, that's not who you are. Like, you're not. You can wish you were, but you're simply not.
Yeah, nice. So you have to be faithful for what you are, and you have to know yourself, something that works for people and for companies too.
Absolutely.
Now I want to ask you, how important, I believe I know this answer, but how important is data in modern real estate strategies, and what advice would you give to companies looking to leverage data more efficiently?
It's a good question with a couple layers of answers. Data is important. And when I think of data, I'm thinking of data and evidence and facts, right? If you're thinking about setting a strategy, and what I said before, you need to have the best intelligence to be able to make great decisions. You need data to do that. You need evidence. You need to actually know what's going on, not what somebody thinks is going on, or a whole bunch of opinions, because that's not going to do you any good. So that's super important. But then the counter to that is, if you think about, maybe just market data, right? I have all this data on a whole bunch of houses and what they've sold for the past 5 or 10 years. That kind of market data, I think it is important, but it's maybe not as important as people might think. And that's because real estate is still just such a relationship, people-based business. We could both be agents, right? And we could be vying for clients, and you could have all the data I'm the data guy. I have all the data in the world, right? I have so much data, and you have some data, but you don't have a lot. But you're so much more personable and asking great questions, to your prospective clients. And you've been in the market for 15 years, and you know this neighborhood, and you know other families, and you know all that stuff. And I don't, but I've got a lot of data. Because it is real estate and it is such a personal decision, I think you're going to win, 9 times out of 10. So yeah, data's important. Like, I wouldn't turn it away if somebody offered it to me, but I think you need to right size how important it is and how you're going to use it in your business.
Perfect. As much as we talk about technology and innovation, I see that when we talk about real estate markets, we're always talking about people and people behavior, and we always come to that again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's one of the truisms that I've learned, from being in this space for a number of years now. The agent, they're the center of the friggin' transaction, whether you want them to be or not. It is just unequivocally true.
And it will be continuing to be this way?
I mean, who knows, right? You can't predict the future, but if you look at that graph, if you look at the line chart of the percentage of people that use agents, it's gone up, in the US at least. Over the past 40 years, it's gone up. It's at an all-time high. So to think that, again, in the next 2 years, that's going to radically change, I don't think so. In the next 10 years, yeah, maybe things will change. But again, I teach a class of students every semester, and after going through all this, listening to all our speakers, I always ask them at the end, like, if you're going to buy a home, how many of you would use an agent? And 98% of them raise their hand. Like, you think, the young people, they just want an app. They don't. They're scared as heck buying a house with all of their money, and they don't want to make a mistake, and they want to get a person to hold their hand through that process.
And maybe I think maybe people are even tired of getting to deal with so much technology and always being behind a screen or everything. So sometimes you prefer to have a conversation with a person.
Absolutely. And especially with real estate. Maybe you can do online banking and that's fine, and you don't talk to somebody. I mean, it's been a long time since I've been to a bank branch, and I'm fine with it, right? It's nice to be able to use my phone for everything. But real estate, I think people are willing to put their phone down and go out and have a coffee and see things in real life.
Perfect. And at the same time, I have this impression that at the same time we have a lot of changes in our market. Is still a market who changes really slowly. Why is it?
I think it changes. Real estate changes so slowly because of what we said before, right? It's real estate. It's an infrequent transaction. It's probably like the most infrequent at the highest price point, right? If you plot this stuff out over time. So think about, movie rentals, right? That's something that people do a lot. Maybe you rent a couple movies a week, and it costs a couple dollars or $5 or $15 for a Netflix subscription, right? It's moving fast. There's transactions. There's all these transactions. You can say like, oh, try this, right? The downside, if you don't like it, you might lose $15 and a little bit of your time. It's not a big deal, right? But if that's the pace of transactions for something like that, or online travel, booking tickets, it's going like, it's just going so fast. The pace of transactions for real estate is like, and then wait, 10 years, and then I'll go, again, right? There might be a couple in your whole lifetime.
Yeah.
And it's not for $10 or $15 a month. It's for all of your money. So, hey, try something new. Be like, I don't know if I want to do that. So it comes down to the people and the psychology of the whole thing.
Perfect. And finally, where do you see the greatest opportunities for innovation in real estate technology in the near future?
People got to solve real problems. One of the biggest problems right now in the United States is around affordability because of what's happened over the past couple of years. Home affordability is a big challenge. Is that a challenge here in Brazil?
Yeah, it is a challenge.
I would love to see all of these smart people's brains combined with all of the venture capitalists' money solving affordability. Like that is, housing is on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I mean, that is very close to being, everybody should have the right to be able to live somewhere where they want, in a place that they want. So why don't we try solving that? Why, let's focus on that. I don't know. Yeah, we can have an AI chatbot that does this, that, and the other at, in the middle of the night on Saturday, but affordability is it's a real human challenge. So it would be wonderful to see some potential solutions around that.
Perfect. We hope we have a solution for this soon or in the near future.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mike, we are getting to the end of our episode. Any final thoughts you want to share with our audience? Talk about your website, podcast, feel free.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I love what I do, and I'm a big fan of transparency, so I like to present a lot of data and evidence in an unbiased way, because I think that's important. It helps people make better decisions faster. So if you're into that, I have a website, mikedp.com. I have a podcast called Context, and other stuff I'm involved in, and almost everything is out there for free, so you can kind of plug into my research, mailing list. Check it out.
Mike, thank you very much. I'm sure our audience will enjoy this conversation as much as I did, and I hope to see you in Brazil soon again.
I would love to come back. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ofereça parcelamento em até 21 vezes no cartão. Com a TicPag, seu cliente parcela rescisões, aluguéis, condomínios e reformas e você recebe tudo à vista em um dia útil. Chame pelo WhatsApp 15 99776 1140.
Como você imagina a sua imobiliária daqui a 4 anos? Bom, a Loft quer que você chegue no topo antes e sabe que o caminho é fazer mais negócios. Por isso, a Loft oferece soluções tecnológicas e financeiras para simplificar a jornada de compra, venda e aluguel. Descubra o melhor em fiança aluguel, CRM imobiliário, financiamento e conquiste até novos leads com o portfólio único compartilhado. Acelere sua imobiliária com Loft Mais Negócio.
Você ouviu o Modo Avião. Conteúdo original Cúpula e Imob Report. Edição de áudio Dice Masters. O Modo Avião é um oferecimento de Sigafy, Tóquio Marine, Soluções para Alugar Porto Bank, Contimob, Auxiliadora Predial, Loft, Cred Aluga, Dashmob, TicPag, Superlógica e Seller. Obrigada por nos ouvir até aqui e até o próximo episódio.